Live. Thank you very much, Dan. And we are not live in the hotel. We are live in our designated boats and or offices. Thank you very much for joining us. I am per point one declaring a quorum present. Are there any additions to the agenda? Yes, Jake, Member Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under new business, I'd like to add a bylaw amendment proposal.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
And then under the new business, I'd like to discuss that. And I've got another new business one and then an update on an old business.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to put Ms. Butler before me, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that because mine rolls right into yours. So that would be good. Yeah. Okay.
Diane, what is the topic again? I'm sorry.
There's two. Yeah, the one is the thing that Jake is working on, the article, and then the other one was the hang on. Oh, some of the judge assignment parity issues.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then I do have the old business to follow up from the last meeting that we had.
Understood.
Great. Okay.
Additions, that covers additions to the agenda. Thank you both.
We have two speakers too.
And two speakers that have signed and informed us of their wish to address the board, which we have
be under new
approved.
business, Mr. Chair. New
That
business.
will be after new business.
After new business. Okay.
Yes. Now we are at approval of minutes. Open meetings 9:17 and 9:24 have, yes. Member Weissman.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second. Jackson Stanley.
It has been properly seconded by Jackson
both
Stanley.
sets of minutes.
Excuse me?
Is this the both sets of minutes? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, 9:17 was just to open the closed session on
Right.
9:17.
Yeah. Okay, that one's fine.
So
okay.
9:24. So for both, we need a motion, and so moved by Member Weissman, properly seconded by Member Jackson Stanley. All
So
those in favor.
924, I had a question. So we had an error in there where it was 12,000, not 1,200. So
yes, you indicated that. It's
yeah,
indicated.
so we fixed it at the bottom, so we don't fix it at the top. Is that how we do it?
Yes, it's duly noted in the minutes that you added your comment for correction.
Okay.
And then
right,
when we publish
Yes.
it, we'll do
Thank you.
corrections.
okay, great. Thanks. Okay.
All right. With that being said, the amendment being made, all those in favor of the minutes, approving the minutes for 9:24 and 9:17, 2024, please indicate by raising your hand. So moved, unanimous consent of the board.
Yeah.
Moving on to the closed meeting, 9:17, 2024 and 9:24, 2024. Is there a motion to approve the closed meeting minutes? It has been moved properly by Member Weissman. Is there a second? It's been properly seconded by Vice Chair Shallett. All those are there any comments, updates, edits to be brought forward at this time? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the closed meeting minutes, please indicate by raising your hand. So moved, unanimous consent of the members, all members being present. Moving on to State Administrator's report.
Thank you, Chair. I want to say today is the first day of early voting. So we're having very good turnout so far. As of 1 o'clock, over an hour ago, we had over 75,000 people vote, and over 500 people do same-day voter registration. So I've been, broadcasting some of those numbers as we get them. So it's been really a nice turnout thus far. Just wanted to highlight a few things here that we've done. First up, we hosted a Nigerian delegation from their government. They had a roundtable discussion regarding the electoral processes in America and Maryland specific. They also toured the Anne Arundel County Board of Election. It was a nice little delegation, and it was a great time to always swap stories about different ways elections occur. I've been out and about trying to do a lot of promoting of voter registration and voting in general. Overall, it's been great. I really enjoyed this, but I just wanted to highlight a few of my outreach events here. I attended the Fall Festival of Native American Lifelines. And, with this, Native Americans were granted U.S. citizenship 100 years ago, and thus got the right to vote. So this is their 100th anniversary. And, I am working with Lifelines to designate that organization as a national voter registration agency, their NVRA agency. And, as that type of agency, they would be able to distribute voter registration applications, offer assistance for applicants completing those forms, and transmit those completed forms back to the appropriate local boards. Overall, once we've worked through all this here, we would be the 5th state to offer such a designation to Lifelines. And I think it's very appropriate to have it on the 100th anniversary of them getting their citizenship and their right to vote. So I'm very proud of trying to work with them and, and be a part of that organization to help a historically disenfranchised community in their pursuit to vote. Additionally, I went to the Ordnance Road Correctional Facility, and Miss Marsha Briley was the re-entry coordinator for the facility and works closely with the Anne Arundel County Board of Elections in helping eligible individuals register and vote. I was able to speak with a group of inmates there that were eligible to register and vote. There was a lot of misinformation about their rights. I was happy to be there. And I want to mention, I put it in my admin report here about a very touching moment that I was able to assist in the registration of a 52-year-old woman who has never voted or even registered to vote due to a past felony conviction. And she thought it was a lifetime ban. Once I explained the law to her and the changes that she was eligible to register to vote. So she registered right then and there. It was also her son's birthday, which made it extra special for her. And when she is released, which is relatively soon, I believe, she's going to vote for the first time in her life. So I thought that was, what it made it all worthwhile, that one moment there, and really, seeing the impact that we have. Additionally, I've done a town hall with AARP Maryland. I did a similar event prior to the primary, and answered questions from their membership about the election and the credibility of the electoral process. On the 18th, I was in front of the Year of Service class. This is the second class at Anne Arundel Community College, and just explaining the electoral process to the younger generation, and that, they need to register to vote, which a lot of them were, and that they should go out and vote. Finally, one of the bigger things too, which is this, is that I did a little bit, I want to highlight a pilot program that is going on in Prince George's County. I've mentioned this to the EAC chair and other individuals. It's regarding assistance to voters whose second language is English. Basically, this pilot program connects a voter to an election judge via video conference to a translator. It includes every language, including sign language, through this app, and it is available at every one of the early voting centers. And on election day, every chief judge will have the app on their cell phone, so that they would be able to assist any voters with it. I can't wait to see the stats afterwards. I've worked closely with Prince George's on this, and I plan to submit the program for a Cleary, which is an EAC award, that, because they have to have an award program here after the election on behalf of Prince George's County for helping with people who have language issues. So it was I think it's a worthwhile program, and it's very good to highlight. As you can see, we have done a massive amount of voter outreach, and we've given some stats compared to what 2022 was like. The increases have just been phenomenal. I think that you can see that just our reach, the engagement rate, and it's really showing with the early voting stats, with mail-in voting being at record numbers, and today's turnout being very high as well. With that, I just wanted to kind of highlight that. As for the Candidacy and Campaign Finance Division, the next report is due tomorrow for presidential and Baltimore City candidates, and for Prince George's special election. So, they're always plugging away. So pre-report notices have been sent out, and we'll be able to help, start making sure that everyone can see all those reports. Not much really going on in public financing. We have close to over $9.7 million in the Fair Campaign Finance Fund, and we've had a couple of enforcement actions in September, collecting $2,175 there for the report there. As for election management here, we had to do a proposed emergency polling place change, because they were unable to, voters were unable to enter safely and exit the polling place. So the move would be to College Park City Hall, which is located 0.5 miles away. And I approved this move under delegated authority. Again, we had another one there as well, moving it from the Robert Frost Elementary School to the Charles Carroll Middle School. Again, there was construction in the facility, and it was, a small distance away, 1.1 miles away. Those were the emergency polling place changes, and, notice were given to the voters as well, accordingly. Voting in correctional facilities, we mailed out 12,000 voting packs to the correctional facilities, and just again, I just wanted to say that when I went to that event, the reentry coordinator shared how much the population expressed how much they enjoy and learn from these packets, handouts, and videos. So it's a very worthwhile endeavor there. Same-day voter registration postcards were sent out to eligible voters that have not registered. So, and we can see that information is also making it an impact, because we have over 500 people that have already voted today using the same-day voter registration process. And one of the things now is that, we've worked hard to update the mail-in ballot and online ballot delivery videos. So, just to help with common troubleshooting problems there. So they're all up on our I believe, our YouTube channel. So that's all been good. And we've translated the mail-in ballot application into other languages, just like we did with the voter registration application. So they're available on our website as well. And, basically, we've done LNA with the voting systems for early voting, which is ongoing right now. And the transportation has always, logistics have always been, a high priority for elections. It's a lot of moving parts here, and they've done a phenomenal job getting out all the drop boxes, all the early voting equipment as well to the facilities, and they're keeping it going all the way through Election Day and beyond, when they have to get it all back. So the warehouse team has been phenomenal in making sure that the transportation is going forward. In information systems, technology, and cybersecurity, cybersecurity, of course, is, there's always, everything's paramount in my mind right now for stress levels. And, we're making sure that our security operations center, SOC, as it's called, which operates 24/7, 365. Monitors independent threat, I would say threats, and manages our security devices internally. So we, are always monitoring and stopping bad actors from trying to infiltrate our systems here. But as we keep on going, and we are always working closely with our federal and state partners of any cybersecurity threats, both foreign and domestic, and working with mitigation and avoidance strategies, of course. So that is there. Under hires, we have a new hire in the election reform division there, Aubrey MacArthur. She's joining us. She joined us on October 16th. So feet right into the fire, as I like to say, like, come on in. You start into elections the day after voter registration ends, right before early voting starts, and welcome to elections. So so she's getting her feet, she got thrown right into the deep end, so it's been great. Procurement, as you can see, we have lots of active procurements going on here, but I know that we have the bigger ticket items here are the statewide poll book modernization project that I wanted to highlight here, and we are making sure that there's enough funds for it, and the request for proposal RFP is under development and is moving through the approval process with DO-IT and with the Office of State Procurement as well. And the new voting system is fully staffed, and we are of course drafting an RFP that's under development for deployment for the 2028 election. So that's there. Mail-in voting has been once again exceeding my expectations a lot here. That was of the 14th was 776,000, but we have basically gone over, I think, 100 another we've gone to over 820,000 requests. The receipts have been close to 400,000, and the canvassing is above 250 or close to 250,000 ballots canvassed. So, it has just been a very viable option there. And, just to kind of give you a little bit here about what we've been fielding here, because I think this kind of changed everything with customer service. And I just want to highlight this because our customer service team has done a phenomenal job, and it has been a team effort here. From in the past, customer service and the call center used to just handle like, am I registered? Where's my polling place? I would say more generic, simple questions. Nowadays, we have with the amount of mail-in voting, the calls have just been increasing, and the complexity of it as well. So it has been quite a staff effort here from everyone involved. And we have fielded over 3,000 emails for requests for assistance. I know that we have gotten thousands of phone calls as well. Per day. It's been a really collective effort, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the staff, because everyone chipped in to help with this, because at the end I've kind of said, like, they're our customers, they're the ones that want to vote, and we're making sure that everyone, every vote counts, every vote matters, and this is putting our actions behind those words. And I just want to thank the staff immensely for their collective efforts for customer service, because it's such a vital portion of election, and helping have people have confidence in the electoral administration as well. Because if they feel like we're responsive and going forward with it, we know that it would it pays dividends later on as well. voter registration and operations. We've conducted our monthly audits to verify compliance with federal and state laws. Going forward here, and now we have, of course, election audits. For our post-election comprehensive audit, we've completed it for the 2024 presidential primary, and I believe, yes, we've started the process of completing that for the Prince George's County special primary election. We'll have clear ballot, the automated audit performed, which will verify the accuracy of our tabulating systems. So that's going to be after November 5th. And, we'll of course have the post-election manual audit as well. So that's underway. And we have selected the sites and have notified the counties of which ones to do and the amount of ballots that they need to manually audit. Election judge recruitment, which, is always ongoing. And we have, seen a lot. So, we're in a great place with that because it's now election is ongoing. So every judge is there. And people, if they sign up, I've talked to like Prince George's and other counties as well, that if they sign up that day, they can get trained and then they'll just be on call. We always need as many people on call. And if they don't get used this election here, don't get disheartened because there's always another election coming up. We have your information, and then we will be immediately reaching out to you for future elections as well. So this is how we develop a stable of election judges. And I've always kind of tried to reach out as much to high schools to get young people to be election judges as well. And I promoted that with the year of service class as well. As you can see, some voter registration figures there and what we've been doing with Eric. Just kind of going through it. And then exercise duties here. We updated the mail-in ballot application with those additional language translations. As I mentioned, the Prince George's polling place changes and the early vote selection for the manual audit was along with the chair. But before I want to end my administrator's report, I want to just take a moment on a couple of things here. One, I just want to mention the recent passing of a former GOP chair, Diane Waterman. She's a very wonderful woman. I worked with her closely for numerous years, have the utmost respect for her. Cancer is a horrible, horrible disease that I know all too well. And I just wanted to just reach out and just say my thoughts and prayers are to her family, during this time. But I just she was a very great woman. And I just wanted to just mention that, with at the end here. And the other thing too, which is this, the ES&S has submitted for certification an upgrade to the voting system, the current voting system. So this process here would be something that we will review. This upgrade is to allow for the touchscreens to have two sets of names, so that it's not just the 7. It will do split screens, and we will look at it and review it for your certification by the December 5th board meeting. That's our goal right now, is to do that, so that we've received their application and we'll do this process. So this is how it's going to kind of be, because I know about the certification process. We've said this in the past. Companies are allowed to then submit things to us, and we would review it on the standard of whether it complies with Maryland law. And if it does, we would then present that to the board for certification. Certification does not mean that we will use the product, buy the product, It just means that it meets the level, very similar to what other states do and what the EAC does, that it meets this threshold level. And with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jared. I do recognize two hands of our board members, but before I go to them, I'd like to collectively offer the board's condolences to the Waterman family and their tremendous commitment to the state of Maryland. Thank you for that notice, Jared. And also wanted to welcome Aubrey, excuse me, to the SBE team, and applaud the SBE staff and the LBEs for their due diligence and their recognized efforts collectively to ensure the vote. So thank you guys so very, very much as we move forward. And with that, Jake, I saw your hand first. Member Weissman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Demaritis. Just got a short list today. Number one, at your very beginning, you were talking about folks who have used same-day registration. At one point, you said 500. Another point, you said 5,000.
Oh, 500. Sorry.
So 500.
I want to have 5,000 and probably.
5,000 would be incredible. 500 is great too.
Yes.
Appreciate that. You talked in your report about additional languages for what languages are we talking about?
So it was in the report here. It is the same ones that we have for the voter registration application. So it's Spanish, French, traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, and Korean.
That's fantastic. Something just post-election for 2026, it might be worthwhile to reach out to the individual counties in terms of what the most spoken languages are in their counties. I know when I worked in Montgomery County, Amharic is actually one of the top 5 languages there. So it might be worthwhile to get a just picture as to what other languages. So as you're looking at expanding, to be able to expand to the languages that are most spoken in the state.
Yes, great. Yes.
Two things of praise. Number one, election judges. I know we have been beating the drumbeat all year, and just want to say, this is, 97% filled, is exciting and is great, and hopefully we'll make it for a smoother election day. But just want to say thank you for taking those concerns to heart. And the other thing, I'm kind of jumping out of my seat over what you were just saying about the split screens. This is an issue that I know candidates and electeds have brought up for years in terms of the maximum amount of folks who have able to be on one page and the concern about having to go to the next page and the next page. I know we're not there yet, but this is clearly a step in the right direction. So thank you. Please get us all the way there. We're counting on you, but that's exciting. Last question, and I asked this question before the primary, and the chair very fairly kind of shot me down. I want to ask it just slightly different. How are you feeling?
I'm excited. So that's how I'm feeling. And I've got 800,000 people that have requested over that for mail-in. How do you not feel excited about elections and the process and voting and everything else? Like it's getting closer and closer, and so I'm excited, and I'm passionate about this, and I want to see it all the way through. So I can't wait. I'm hoping for 100% of voter turnout. So that's my goal.
There we go.
The locals are all going to hate me, but that's what I want. I want everyone to vote.
Everyone that is registered and should be voting. So thank you very much for that recognition and for that acknowledgement. I think the staff demonstrate the leadership that we have been afforded in making this a smooth. So thus far, it looks smooth. So thank you very, very much for being responsive to the needs of the LBEs, to the needs of the voters. And I am acknowledging Member Weissman at this time that it was quite appropriate to ask that question. Thank you very much. You guys look,
I think he froze.
Michael, can you hear us?
I think he just froze, so, but,
But I think he was about to go to Miss Butler, so.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so am I going?
Go for it.
Okay, if anyone needs the address and everything for the funeral tomorrow for Diana, I have all the information. So just email me and I will let you know. I will be going to that, so. And thank you for acknowledging her. She was such a beautiful woman and such a great woman, for women, and always worked hard for all the women and for the voting. And I just wanted to say that, thank you. And then I just have one quick question for you, Jared. I love it when you give these reports because then I can find out about things that I don't remember or don't understand. So the LNA is when they check all the machines before we start using them, correct?
Yes,
And
I did
then-
a little video. I went to Prince George's and I posted it on Insta and everything else. I was just there watching them do it,
Right,
testing
so
all
when
the
they-
ballots and everything.
So when they do that, is that part supposed to be open or is it just open for them to read the reports afterwards?
It's open for them to read the reports because it's the back end stuff of it all is supposed to be a part of it, but you know.
Yeah, because I
the-
had a question. Somebody said that they didn't do the public thing until after they started using the machines and they go, the machines are checked though first. I said, yes, I just want to make
Right.
sure that it was, yeah. So just the public portion of it was done after they had started doing the canvassing, and that was the question. So.
Right, exactly, because otherwise, I mean, literally, you're seeing people with pre-marked ballots to go in there to check it and everything else, and that's
Yeah,
why I
and
went
it's
behind
like
the
watching
scenes a little
paint.
bit.
Yeah, it is like watching paint dry. I've watched it. It's a long, hard process, but whatever. Okay, thank you for the clarification.
No problem.
And-
And please, when you go to the funeral, please express my condolences to the family from me as
I
well.
will do that.
I have, she will understand that I'm actually in early voting, so it's quite
She will.
appropriate.
Yeah, actually, she will. Yeah. And yes, I'm taking some messages from, I'll take it from the entire board. So, because I think there's another judge or something that Jim has to go to, so I'll take his message also.
Thank you.
And Jake, I just have to thank you for your enthusiasm all the time. You're pretty funny. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So with that, Chair, I forgot to mention one other thing too, and it'd just be under, I guess, new business, with some of the turnout being up a little bit here, due to the National Federation of the Blind lawsuit and litigation and the settlement that has occurred, the board has to allocate X amount of marking devices out there, but some local boards might want to request more during this early voting period because of turnout that under new business. And I apologize for we just got this today because of the numbers that to delegate that duty over to me to allow for additional ballot marking devices to be used. We had done it beforehand with numerous times there, but every now and then you have one or two local boards that want to request an additional one or two that we have in reserve for this purposes here to be used. So that can be done under new business, but I just wanted to bring that up. So
all right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Any further questions? All right, thank you very much. And moving on to the Assistant Attorney General's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. You should have your Assistant Attorney General's report, only 2 new matters on it, but I'll go through it and take any questions at the end. The first case listed as usual, Sullivan v. Summers. No updates on that case. That case is pending summary judgment. I'll report a decision when the court gives us a decision on the case. Number 2, Wacomico County branch of the NAACP versus Wacomico County, still in a holding pattern, waiting for a settlement conference. 3, Gibson v. Frederick County, still waiting for a decision from the 4th Circuit. Number 4, Maryland Election Integrity versus the State Board. I think I might have said last time, although I might not have, but the oral argument was set for December 12th. So on December 12th, I'll be going down to Richmond to argue that appeal on the State Board's behalf. Number 5 was in the matter of Anthony Aimbridge. That I actually have the circuit court case up there. it became a Supreme Court case in between the time of the last meeting and this one. I'm happy to report that the Supreme Court of Maryland reversed the Circuit Court of Prince George, I'm sorry, Anne Arundel County. And the result of the case is that ballot question F on the Baltimore City ballot remains on the ballot and is a live question, and voters will be voting on it. Its results will be certified, and however the voters vote on it will determine whether the charter amendment that the question presents is amended to the charter or not. Number 6 is a new case, Will Hanna v. Baltimore City Board of Elections. Mr. Hanna is the sole plaintiff, alleging that the sample ballots used by the city board during the primary election violated the Voting Rights Act of 1965. There were some service of process issues, and there are service of process issues on September 24th, which I believe was right after the last meeting, or the day of the last meeting. OAG, which represents both the city board and state board separately, filed a joint motion on behalf of both defendants, moving to dismiss the case for a number of different reasons. The plaintiff has until today to file a response to that motion to dismiss. None has been filed as of 2:35 right now. And then the final case, Brian Della Rocca versus Susan Lee et al., was a lawsuit filed back in August by a single plaintiff. Mr. Della Rocca has sued Susan Lee, who is the Secretary of State of Maryland, Chairperson Summers, who is the chair of our board, and Louis DeJoy, who is the Postmaster General of the United States. The allegation in the lawsuit is that the USPS is unreliable, and therefore use of a mail-in ballot voting system that Maryland uses, in which voters can receive and return their ballots through the USPS, violates voters' constitutional rights. The case picked up last week when on October 16th, the plaintiff served the case on both Chairperson Summers, although it wasn't personally on Chairperson Summers, it was served to the Office of the Attorney General and Secretary Lee at the same time. And on the same day of that service, moved for a preliminary injunction asking the court to halt the use of mail-in ballots through USPS immediately while the case was pending. OAG has filed a motion or a response in opposition to that request for a preliminary injunction. It was filed yesterday. The plaintiff has filed a response to that opposition about 3 hours ago, and tomorrow I'll be headed to Greenbelt, to the federal district court there, for a hearing on the preliminary injunction.
All right, thank you very much, Dan, for your report. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the Assistant Attorney General's report? Go ahead, Member Weissman.
Just to thank you. You're dealing with a lot right now and 12 days to go, and just want to say thank you.
I appreciate that. SBE, the Jared and his staff, and the local boards of election are facilitating an election like we hadn't seen before. Jared brought up there's 825,000 requests for mail-in ballots. Other than the primary in 2020, which was all mail-in ballot, Maryland's never seen anything like this before. So I am dealing with litigation, but the state board and our local boards are facilitating an election like we've never seen before.
Thank you very much for that, Member Weissman. Thank you for that comment. Assistant Attorney General Corbin to the State Board of Election and the LB East, duly recognized. And now moving on to Title 13 late fee waiver requests. Mr. Norfleet, if you'd like to introduce those waivers to the board for approval.
Separately, Title 13 and 14?
Yes, Title
Okay.
13, yes. Thank you.
Title 13, I have 6 approvals to present before the board, and a list of committees that OSP is declining to prosecute. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for that.
I have a
Jim, the chair recognizes the vice chair.
Thanks, Alan, for all you do. Are we going to announce the parties involved here, or is that confidential? In other words, the agenda doesn't have any any information for the public, and I just didn't know if that would be done or not, on who these entities are that we are approving or disapproving.
All the documents were posted. They're posted online.
Okay,
So you can see so the public can see all the waiver requests, what they submitted and the considerations.
okay.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Vice Chair, any further questions or concerns? No? Okay. Is there a motion to accept the state administrator, the state board's recommendation for the Title 13 late fee waiver request?
So moved.
So moved by Vice Chair Shalleck. Is there a second? Properly seconded by Member Jackson Stanley. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimous consent of the board's recommendation. Thank you so very, very much. Now moving on to Title 14, late fee waiver requests.
Yes, so we have 11 approvals for waiver and 2 denials. And please let me know if you have any questions.
Mm-mm.
All right, hearing no questions, seeing no concerns. Is there a motion to accept the board's recommendation for Title 14 late fee waiver request? So moved by Member Butler. Is there a second? Probably seconded by Member Weissman. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is moved with unanimous consent. All members being present. Thank you very much. Issue number A, campaign finance entities administrative closures. The chair will entertain a motion to allow delegation. I'm sorry. The campaign, I'm on to number 9. Campaign finance entities administrative closures. Is that you, Mr. Norfleet, or is that?
It is me.
All
So
right.
we haven't done these in a few years.
No,
So
we haven't.
so this is basically committees that have been inactive for years, past the statute of limitations for both the board and for the state prosecutor's office. And I have 5 to present forward.
So that's understandable. For the time lapse.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to accept the board's recommendation for campaign finance entities? Oh, so,
I had a question.
okay,
Yeah.
is there a question?
Yeah, one quick
Yeah.
question.
Okay, go ahead, Vice Chair.
Alan, I know from my own experience, to close an account, these accounts had to end up with a 0 balance, which is not an easy task when you have donations coming in for years. Are these campaign accounts being closed with 0 accounts, or are they being closed not with the bottom line being evened out?
Oh, so these
other words-
actually, or go ahead.
No, when I closed out my account, when I
Yeah.
was a candidate, you got to get to 0. And then, that's a very cumbersome task when you have to go through all your finances. Are these campaign accounts in compliance with that?
Well,
But
this
they-
is
but they
the
just-
exception to the rule where they do not have to have a 0 balance. This is the one time you can close without a 0 balance. I mean, if you read through these, it's where the treasurer and the chairman have passed away. I mean, state prosecutor even tried to contact remaining family members to get them to close, and obviously that's quite a burden. And as we know, maybe y'all don't know this, but the banks are very hard. Like after 5 years, the banks won't provide bank statements anymore. They are disposed of. So there is no way to reconcile these accounts. We've completely exhausted our all the tools that we have. We cannot close these with a 0 balance.
So what happens to the money that's in these accounts?
Oh,
that are
they
being-
don't have any money. It's just they have a remaining reporting balance. Their bank accounts have been closed for years. Yeah.
Thanks, Alan.
So, yeah, let me just say, I've had this in the past, but as Alan explained it, right? Like, for example, when we look at the bank records and everything else, they've usually have been either criminal prosecutions that have issues with reporting death. But one of the things is prior to this is that the state prosecutor does make a recommendation on this. so that they have kind of gone through it, Vice Chair, so that, you know, while there is, say, technically a balance that we can't reconcile, they have determined that no theft has occurred. So then it's just mismanagement or like sloppy bookkeeping rather than a criminal prosecution. And you know, we've gone through every avenue prior to like allowing this portion of it. And then it just gets to the point where it's just like, we don't want to keep them on our books forever here. And just kind of, you know, it's like the final straw just to get them off the thing.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Chair recognizes Member Butler. Your question to Mr. Norfleet?
I was just gonna thank you because I did look through all those and like, you know, seeing where the person died and the chairman died and the treasurer died. And it's nice to clear them up and clean them up. And I know that they hang out there and we have all these, you know, we keep adding, you know, fees and fines. So they were very interesting to look through, and the fact that you know, how you went through them all. Good for you. You did a really good job. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the administration's recommendation. Recognize the motion being presented by Member Weissman. Is there a second? Probably seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It's so moved, unanimous consent. Thank you very much. On to issue number 9, manual audit selection delegation. The chair will entertain a motion to delegate the manual audit selection to the state administrator. Question, Jake, or is that a motion?
Yeah, if I can just get a little bit clarification as to what we're doing here.
Oh, so this is the manual audit that they have to basically count the ballots manually to verify the results. Is a part of the law, and you know, we determine the number and the polling places that are required for it. There's a formula that is in the law, so that we can kind of we do it with early voting, and this one here the board has to do. But if you guys did it this early, it doesn't work like that. So you know, you don't want to you want to do it a little bit closer to the election or right thereafter. So
all right, and
this, yeah, so yeah.
question from Member Butler.
So Jake, in the local boards, they always go in and they have a meeting like at 8 o'clock right before the election ends, and they pick which precincts that they're going to audit. And so the state does their own audit too, because but again, instead of us coming in for a meeting, I guess we're relegating that to you. Is that what we're doing, Jared?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
okay,
request
so
is,
we're
are we
relegating
going
that. So
to are we going to be
then-
willing to delegate that responsibility to the state
And
administrator?
sometimes it's better to, like you said, to wait, because if you had an issue with one group and you might want to pick that one particularly to make sure that it's a good fit for this audit, you know. So so it used to be, so each one of the boards, and then so now the state has their own. So
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Katie, we can barely hear you. Katie,
Okay,
we can
sorry.
barely hear you.
I'm gonna keep talking and it'll get louder, I hope. In Comar, it is required that within 15 days following the election day itself, that like we randomly select the polling places that are going to be part of the manual audit. The early voting locations had to have been selected 3 days prior to early voting starting. So we've already done that. That was part of the administrator's report. And so the random selection of the polling locations and the office, the statewide office, that is something that we are requesting to have delegated so that we can do that in the days following the election. And then after certification, we will give that information to the local boards, and they have until March to complete their manual audit. It is a post-certification audit that is laid out in Comar. So I just wanted to give that context to help clarify.
Thank you very much, Member
ask-
Butler and Deputy Administrator for those points of clarification.
me ask a
Vice
question?
Chair, yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. If I can ask Katie a question?
Sure.
Katie, just so people who may be watching or listening, this is a sampling. In other words, they don't count every single vote in Maryland. They do a sampling in the local boards of certain precincts. And basically, they're doing a sampling to do what? To make sure that the number of people that sign in at the polls is the same number that go through the scanner. In other words, what is the reason for the audit? And second, in other words, what are they looking for? And secondly, it's been mentioned before that there's a company called Clear Ballot, correct?
Mhm.
Nothing to do with the state, correct?
No.
And it's a private company and they come in and they do an audit of the audits. In other words, that we have a private company that audits the audits.
So
Is
let
is
me
that,
clarify, the
and what are
audit,
they looking for? Yeah.
Yep, okay. So several weeks ago, we provided the local boards with a formula, and again, it's laid out in Comar about how many ballots need to be audited for mail-in ballots and provisional ballots, along with election day, and early voting. So, the local boards will get a small sampling based on the turnout from previous elections, a small sampling of mail-in ballots from the canvass, the provisional ballots from a canvass, a sampling of early voting from that random selection, and they will do that later today in Comar. And then for election day, they will audit an entire precinct, whatever that random selection is, plus some random additional precincts throughout the state. So what this is actually checking, it is doing a manual hand tally audit of one statewide contest. So for the statewide contest, we have the president and the US Senate. So one of those contests will be audited, and so they will take the results from the election and do a manual tally to check that they match. As it pertains to Clear Ballot takes 100% of the digital images. So every ballot that is scanned into a DS200 for early voting, mail-in ballots, provisional, and election day, and they scan digital images and they create election results. And then they don't have the actual election results that we do, but then when they run their actual results, they're able to compare those results and then come up with a report that is then given to all the local boards to show that the amount of ballots that were scanned, the digital images, the results match what was actually scanned during the canvasses and in-person voting processes.
So Clear Ballot audits every single vote in Maryland?
Yes.
Oh, that's something. Thank you. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Jake, excuse me, Member Weissman.
My apologies. One more question. Ms. Berry, are the local election boards told beforehand which precincts have been decided to audit?
We don't select, so the precincts, we don't select those until we have 15 days following election day to actually make those selections.
So they're only selected after the results are in, essentially, when everything is.
My screen froze. They're selected after. Is that what you said?
After the election.
Yes, they're only selected after the election. Yeah.
And after the results are publicly reported, or?
Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. So the motion is on the floor to allow for the state administrator to have this duty delegated on behalf of the board. Is there a motion? Member Weissman? Seconded by, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jackson Stanley. Thank you very much. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is moved and with unanimous consent of the board, all members being present. All right, now we are moving on to final regulations, and we will have either state administrator or his staff to brief us on each one of the regulations being proposed for final approval.
So the final ones will be briefed by Melissa.
Yep, I can take those. And these are familiar to this group. You guys approved them in their non-final form. So just to refresh your recollection, they have to do with the voter registration lists that are available for public purchase. There was nothing really substantive about the change except for reflecting our current processes in terms of what types of lists are available, and they're being used well right now. The voter registration application, again, that's just being updated to reflect the current law and the current application. And the final one is the early voting activities, and there was a typo in that, so we just fixed that typo, and it was a reference to an incorrect section. Happy to answer any questions. If we didn't get any public comment on them, they were sent out for publication.
Melissa.
All right,
I-
Vice Chair?
Yeah, Melissa, thank you for what you do. So with these regulations that we're approving, there's nothing in these regulations that we're approving regarding the integrity or what's on these lists. This is just what lists are available and to whom.
Right, yeah, so when they started, we just had a couple kinds of lists, and now we have a bunch. And so this allows under regs for us to do the bunch of different types of lists.
So nothing we're doing today deals with what's in those lists. Is that correct?
No. Nope, there's no change to the substance of the list at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, did you go over suspension of campaign or,
No, those are new.
Oh,
no, that's a new,
sorry. Yeah.
because that's a final, right? Yeah,
Right.
go ahead.
Those were proposed regs.
Those-
These are final regs.
I understand. On the agenda at letter F, it
Oh.
is showing suspension of campaign for final regular. Should that be moved to,
Yeah, I'm sorry, that should
Proposed.
be under proposal. That should be.
Thank
yes,
you.
Sorry, yes, that's.
No
that's
problem.
proposed. So,
all
yeah.
right, the chair would entertain a motion at this time for the approval of the proposed final regulations. I will read them off. If we want to do them collectively, let me know. 33.03.02.01, 33.03.02.03, 33.03.02.05, 33.05.02.02, and finally 33.17.06.05. Member Weissman,
So moved to all five.
is there, thank you. Is there a second? It's properly seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimous consent of the board, all members being present, so moved. Now, moving on to, so I'm gonna go ahead with someone introducing suspension of campaign as proposed at this time under Kumar regulation, I guess.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
yes, thank you, Chair. So, yes, so I'm gonna do the first two, which is, well, first three, which will be storage facilities, order and decorum of cell phones, pagers, and cameras, and the suspension of the campaign. I'll do those in the proposed changes there. We're sorry about the memo was one on the other there. And then Melissa will do the bottom three, which is the canvassing, the two canvassing, and the special election by mail canvassing ones.
Thank you.
So, all right. So the first up here is the proposed reg for suspension of campaign. That is in response to what occurred in past gubernatorial election and also what has recently occurred in the Baltimore City election. Basically, this is what occurred if a eligible public finance candidate, gubernatorial ticket committee wishes to suspend campaign activities and endorse or want to endorse an additional candidate in the field there. So this allows them a process to that what they can do and that and defined conduct as well, because while publicly speaking, they always say like we're withdrawing from the campaign. There is a legal term, which is campaign withdrawal occurs X amount of days after a candidate filing deadline, or so at that point there, these campaigns are no longer eligible to withdraw. So this creates a suspension of the campaign where they file a notice of suspension. They cease campaign operations. They have to seek reimbursements and refunds for any future expenditures that were made or incurred. They pay all their outstanding obligations, and then they repay the fund. The remaining money is left within 60 days of the suspension. And basically, it allows the candidate committee to endorse another gubernatorial ticket, but also limits what they can do while they're still paying off debt and repaying the fund, because they're still an active candidate on the ballot, and public funds can only be used for their particular candidacy. So that's what that campaign, that's what that reg is about. The next one.
Thank you.
is
Before you move
about-
on, Jared, are there
Oh,
any
sure.
questions? Because I don't know if my members would like to take these up a la carte or collectively as a whole. Are there any questions regarding this particular proposed regulation? Not at this time. So do you guys wish to hear all and then take them up collectively?
No, do them one at a time.
So we will move them one at a time, understood, especially since they are proposed. Now, that being said, are there any questions regarding the suspension of the proposed regulation regarding suspension of campaign? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the proposed regulation for suspension of campaign regulation?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the draft regulation regarding suspension of campaign finance.
So moved. Is
Suspension
there
of campaign.
Thank you
Sorry.
very much, Member Jackson Stanley. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been probably seconded by Vice Chair. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is approved with unanimous consent, all members being present. All right, thank you, Jared, for your understanding. We're moving on to your second regulation on.
So, and these
Under
are going to
proposed?
be the storage facilities, chapter
Okay.
4, which is going to now be replaced with the name warehouses. This has been a effort that I wanted to state early on, that after touring all the local boards of elections, noticing that there's issues with warehouses across the state, to help come up with a standard policy that the local boards can use, but also because this is something that the counties have to pay, that it should be in regulations and not just a policy, so that the counties can then budget accordingly and see directly where it is in the law, and that what the responsibilities are. We had worked very closely with the local board of the elections directors on these regs. They are very much in support of these facilities here. We went through and did definitions, noticed so that was the first part, which is O2, which is just defining this. The location of a warehouse was O3, and that talked about that the warehouse and the principal office should be together, because we noticed that when boards of elections have that together, it's easier for training purposes, just staffing and just equipment and allocations of that. But we do allow for if there was, if it's impossible, that, you know, where it can exist, in a 5 to 10 mile radius from the principal office. So that's kind of, important that we have there. We basically, you know, this was all what we've done in the past through, MOUs with the local boards for the storage of our voting equipment. And so everything is just kind of cut and dry here. It's not really it's not really like exciting regulations as we're going on through early voting here. It talks about insurance coverage, the storage, you know, making sure that it's climate controlled and other legal requirements. But you know, and that there is security features with access and restricted access there. That the local boards and local governments are the only ones that are permitted to be named for leasees for any warehouse. But you know, it goes through everything across the elements here. So these basically are proposed established minimum requirements for local board warehouses. And one of the things too is that the state board basically will pay 50% of the costs for this. So it establishes the reimbursement procedures as well, so that the local boards, the local budget officers then can also look at how the reimbursements will occur and the calculations for them to determine, and so that we can that there is no problems in the future. So with that, I present those regs for as proposed for approval.
Thank you very much, Jared. We have a question from Member Butler for you, I believe.
Yeah, quick question. So these are for the storage areas for the equipment, correct? Not for the ballots themselves?
Correct.
Okay, because I know some places, I think it's Baltimore County or something, they have a great new facility and they have everything all in one space. I know in Howard County, they've got the office and then they have the storage for the equipment, then they have a separate storage for the ballots, right?
Yes, and this is the minimum, and this is what we have currently within the law, that, you know, because we reimburse for voting equipment and that storage there. But you know, we can put the poll book equipment and some of the ballots in that facility there, and that's a part of the reimbursement, and that's all the calculations that we have. So yes.
And we reimburse 50% of everybody's, right?
Yes.
Or to some of the counties, the county pays for it, or it's all.
Well, right. Sometimes the county owns the building or something to that, but yes.
And then we don't help them if the county owns the building?
Well, then there is no rent, or there's.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay.
Right, it depends, but yes, I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. It does include ballots. They're defined in the regs. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. I'm looking at it and I don't know why. It's in point 10, reimbursement. The
Okay.
state board shall reimburse the local board for 50% of the cost to store voting system equipment, electronic poll book equipment, and ballots.
In the ballots, okay, so all right, yeah, because it's confusing with Howard County having them in 3 places, but that's why I asked the question. Okay,
Right,
thank-
and this is to help the local boards. This is why they want this in regs, because then it's starting to show that we need to consolidate this in one area, and with climate control and security measures, that it shouldn't be all over the place.
Yeah, and because it really was a different, the one in Baltimore County was excellent. It really just was a very good setup, and
Yes.
two different, and then Baltimore compared to that, it was like night and day. Thank you.
Right. So yeah, hopefully this will help them go to the counties and then say, look, we have regs. We want to start getting towards more Baltimore County and more Baltimore County and Anne Arundel are pretty much the gold standards for warehouse and I would say local board facilities.
Yeah, I think it was Baltimore County. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that, Member Butler and State Administrator Damaris, for that clarification. Is there a motion to accept the administrator's request for proposed reg 33.15.04.02 through 11 storage facilities? So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It was moved by Member Weissman, probably seconded by Vice Chair Shallot. Thank you so very much. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. It is moved unanimous with unanimous consent, all members being present. Thank you very much. And we're moving on to 33.07.04.02, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
So this
Order and
is
decorum,
cell phones,
cell phone.
pagers, and cameras. This is in light of certain litigation that is going on here. This is a to change the policy regarding selfies for almost the simplest terms here. Basically, the idea of taking a selfie, of your own ballot, just yourself, has met with there has been a Vermont case, and other people have started to challenge this on the constitutional First Amendment grounds here, that the courts have kind of agreed for it. But overall, what we've done is allow for a selfie to review that they are allowed to take a photo of themselves for their ballot for personal use and personal use only, and it may not be used in violation of or to facilitate in violation of Article 16206, which is about using it for making sure like it's being sold. It was used in, say, the commission of vote swapping, kind of the same thing as using it as an identifiable mark type of deal. So it is narrowing the exception just for personal use and allowing for a person to use their cell phone in a polling place to assist them in marking their own ballot prior to casting, as if they wanted to look up information, because that's allowed. So this is a very limited exception that is meeting with the legal standards of the day.
Thank you very much, State Administrator. Member Weissman, I believe, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll forgive the administrator's use of the term selfie when we're not talking about someone's picture. And I want to clarify this. We're not talking about someone
No.
taking a selfie of them with their ballot. We're talking about them taking a picture of their ballot, correct?
Yes, exactly. Yes, sorry, right.
Right. No, it's fine. We'll teach you proper terminology one of these days. I'm
still learning. I got, whatever.
I do just want to say thank you. I think there's been a lot of confusion about this. And this is, again, one of these things, especially for younger voters, that can increase excitement in the electoral process and get them to share. And we know study after study that folks telling other folks about voting is a way to increase turnout, which is something everybody on the board I know is excited about. So just thank you for this.
Thank you, Member Weissman. The chair recognizes Member Jackson Stanley for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm glad Member Jake Weissman brought that up, because I also heard selfie. And I know what selfie means. And I had this image of a camera taking a picture of me and my ballot. And I thought, gee, that's interesting. How does that work? But you were actually referring to them taking a picture of the ballot, not themselves with the ballot.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that
Thank
clarification.
you. Sorry,
because
yes.
I indeed was walking away thinking there was a picture of me and my ballot, or my children. They would do something like that, but I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. The chair recognizes Member Butler. Vice Chair, I'll get to you next, and then I'll follow with Member Weissman.
So I think part of this started with this North Carolina one where they did take their face and the ballot, correct? And then they put it on Facebook, and this is why it all came up. But I think that's where some of this started. So I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. Are all of these going to go out for public comment, the ones that were
Yes.
approved today? So that we'll have public comment, and then we'll listen to the
Yes.
public comment, and then they'll come
Yes.
back to us. Okay.
Mhm.
I think that's
Thank you.
going to be important for some of these. Okay, thanks.
Very much so. Member Weissman, Member Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Jared, let me ask you a question. with this regulation, are there any restrictions about what people can do once they have the picture of their ballot? Can they put it on social media? Can they send it to a friend? In other words, are there restrictions? They have the picture. What can they do with it that's appropriate or not appropriate? Is there something that restricts the use of that picture?
Oh, I guess, right. It can't be used to say like, I've now voted, and, pay me, right? That's what that was kind of one of the restrictions. Melissa, do you have any other, restrictions on it? Or Dan?
Can they put it
I
on
was
social
talking
media?
Without, yeah, so I think that's generally been the underlying court cases that have been going on throughout the country is people putting it on social media, and the courts have kind of resoundingly found that that's their First Amendment right. Just in the research that I've done. So it would be limited to not using it for a crime.
So they can't put it on social media.
Yep.
Yep.
As long as they're not putting it on social media for a crime, then yeah, they can.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Member Weissman?
Vice Chair asked my question. Thank you, Mr.
All right, great. Thank you guys very much for getting to those points of clarity. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll move.
So moved by Vice Chair. Is there a second? It is probably seconded by Member Weissman. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. All right, it is approved with unanimous consent, all members being present. We have approved 33.07.04.02 order and decorum cell phones, pagers, cameras, etc. per the administrator's recommendation. All right. Thank you very much.
And now
Jared,
Melissa will take
we're
over the
on to
next,
Melissa.
the
All right.
canvassing ones.
I'll take the
Thank you.
much less exciting ones.
Right.
The next one is just a canvassing regulation. So there was new-ish, I guess, 2024 legislation passed to set up early canvas and a waiver to that. So we don't have a formal process right now for requesting a waiver. We've obviously implemented an informal one, but this will formalize the process for the local boards to request the state administrator grant them a waiver for or from canvassing early. Happy to answer any questions about it.
Well, that's the talking about canvassing the mail-in ballots early. Is that
Yes.
what this is?
Yep.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this
All
was,
right.
sorry.
No, I apologize. Member Butler's question.
Yeah, I think this was the one that we had some questions about because some of the locals didn't have enough ballots to even do the canvass yet, so they wanted to move it closer to the date, and this gives them the opportunity to do that, correct?
It does, and it mirrors the law. So the law doesn't give a ton of wiggle room. It gives you 2 reasons to request a waiver. And so this mirrors the law exactly in that if you have a low number, you can request a waiver. It just sets up the process to put that in front of the state administrator to get approval.
Perfect, thanks.
Sure.
Right. Is there a motion? So moved by Member Weissman. Is there a second? Probably seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is approved. The the administrator's recommendation, proposed recommendation is approved unanimously. All members being present. All right. Thank you very much, Melissa. On to 33.08.05.05. Thank you.
Yes, this is the least exciting. So we're just removing a dated reference to touchscreen voting. I figured while I was cleaning up the regulation, we'd get in there and take that out. So we don't have this anymore. It removes that section, but the rest of the regulation remains the same.
Any question or concerns?
Yeah, I must have not seen.
Vice Chair.
So Melissa, what was removed? I'm sorry that.
Oh, so there's bracketed language under 05, a touchscreen voting unit. And we don't use touchscreen voting units anymore, so it removes the post-election verification of a touchscreen unit that we don't use.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Are there any other questions, concerns? Is there a motion?
Move.
It's been properly moved by Member Butler. Is there a second? Properly seconded by Member Weissman. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. So moved. Unanimous consent, all members being present for 33.08.05.05. Thank you very much for that, Melissa. Final proposed reg.
Yes, last one, special elections by mail, which we were just are refreshing, I'm sorry, our memory was refreshed on them here recently. So in doing so, the new vote by mail laws don't line up with the current canvassing processes. So essentially, this will marry the vote by mail canvassing processes for special elections with the canvassing processes that we use for normal elections. So it basically just references the canvassing provisions that we use for a statewide election. And then there is one exception if vote centers are used, because we don't use those in a statewide election. But everything else would just put canvassing for special election on par with the statewide.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll move.
So moved, Vice Chair. Is there a second? Probably seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is moved with unanimous consent, all members being present, 33.21.07.02, the administrator's proposed regulation. Thank
And I
you
want to say,
so
Mr.
very
Chair,
much.
those three were just as exciting as the ones that Mr. Demarais presented.
Thank you for their recognition. And we needed that.
I love a good canvas rag. Thank you, Jake. I'm glad you appreciate
Sorry.
them too.
And moving on to old business. Member Butler.
Last time, compliance with the Comar Open Meeting Acts was brought up at the last meeting. As more than one county had been struggling with compliance, and citizens, judges, and board members had contacted us with complaints. I spoke with our board president, Michael, and his excellent suggestion was to have the board members suggest to the director that board members and directors take our open meetings training that the state board provides. I want to thank Michael for his guidance, because that was helpful. However, in response, one of the directors did not agree and said that only the secretary needs to take the open meetings training. I tried to attend a board meeting in one of these counties by phone, as their website states, following the open meeting, and I was unable to attend the meeting. I believe that Jared tried to give some guidance to these counties, and I'm also glad that you're doing that, and I appreciate that. I'm glad that Jared's stepping up, and he's going to provide, I think, some open meeting training at the semi-annual directors meeting. I also want to thank all the citizens that contacted us about these issues. My question for Jared is this semi-annual meeting for board members also, or is that just for the directors?
It's for board members. It's the biannual. It's in law. So board members, as well as the staff and county and the council as well. So
Okay.
it's all three will be present. The directors, the board members, the council, and then we have, of course, it's optional for relevant staff, but the big three will be are required by law to be present at the biannual conference.
Good.
And that is going to be scheduled, I believe, in May right now. And yes.
I think that was a good roundup for all this after talking with both of you to get this accomplished. So thank you both. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other old business? All right. Thank you very much, Member Butler. Thank you, State Administrator. Moving on to new business. I think Jake, Member Weissman, you wanted Member Butler to lead in. Go ahead, Member Butler, for new business.
Okay, so this past month, we had some parity issues with the judge assignments. Every year, we struggle with getting enough judges, both Democrat and Republican. We had some complaints, we had news articles, we had counselor commissioner input, many different discussions about how the law reads and how it's being followed. The Attorney General stepped in with his comments and he quoted a case from 2006. And then a conversation I was having with Jared and Katie yesterday at the pre-meeting, and unfortunately in 2006, we didn't have early voting. So I believe that as our voting processes have changed, some of our laws have not. So interpreting laws where we used to have 2 days of election, one on primary day and one on the general election day, are very different for interpreting laws when we now have 18 days of voting besides mail-in. So my suggestion is that after this election, which Jared has spoken about, that we're going to look very carefully at the 3 different types of voting that we have now, the early voting, the regular voting day, the mail-in voting, and how we can modernize the processes to stay within the law. We're now running 3 entirely different elections. So this makes getting a 50-50 judge parity harder, but it is one of the jobs that the director is tasked with in each county. So I know we have talked about looking at, how much we're spending on the elections, et cetera, because maybe we don't need as many early voting days anymore since we have so many, vote by mail. But I think at some point, when I was back reading the regulations, they made a lot of sense for when we had one primary day and one voting day. But now that we have so many more days, we have 8 days of early voting for both. So we've got 16, 17, 18 days now. So I think looking at that as we progress would be a good move for this board.
Thank you very much for your input there. Any comment, concerns, questions? All right.
And then I have one more new business one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this past week, we had a very partisan article come out in the newspaper, including many erroneous assumptions which attack the integrity of myself and Jim Shalleck. Jim Shalleck and I have served with distinction on this board and on our previous boards for decades in a nonpartisan manner. Every decision that has been made on this board has been a unanimous decision with all the board members. Neither Jim nor I had any conversations about the pending litigation at all. And when people reached out to us with concerns or suggestions about other types of things, we discussed these other issues with Jared as is our job, or I took it to you, Michael, and that's what our job is. So we didn't do anything wrong. We took this to the board. That's what we're supposed to do. This board's coming together quite nicely in a very nonpartisan manner to represent the citizens of the state of Maryland with free and fair nonpartisanship in our elections, despite the many changes in the board members. So in order to dispel any illusions that this board is not committed to impartially overseeing our state elections, one of our board members, Jake, has written up some guidelines to add to our bylaws to help the public feel at ease. And so we will look at those with Jake. I think maybe we need to massage some of the words in there. But however, Jim and I would like the board president to issue a press release that we have all participated in a professional, impartial manner, and that every decision that's been made by this board has been unanimous. The press can write what they want, but when they erroneously attack public service board members, the record needs to be corrected because this has been very damaging for Jim and myself. So Jim and I are asking the president of our board to do so. It's not Jared's position because we're technically his boss. So it is your position to do that. So thank you.
Mr. Chair. you are
Vice Chair, I
Oh, I'm sorry.
recognize your hand.
I'm sorry.
Vice Chair, yes, I
Oh, you read-
recognize you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I was very upset by that article, because the only reason I'm on this board is to participate and hopefully make these elections fair to all voters. I've done that in 6 years as president of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. We worked very hard together, very difficult times through COVID. And our board, which was Republican majority at the time, received accolades and commendations from the Democratic County Executive and the Democratic County Council. I regret that there has been this controversy that has come up. Certainly, if any of the board members are upset about it, I regret that. I would apologize if you think I did anything wrong, because I have the highest respect for the chairman and this board. And all I can say is that people brought me, I've been around a long time. This is not my first rodeo. I've run for office. I was a party chairman. So a lot of people know me around the state and they bring me concerns. I mean, some days I get 75, 100 calls, emails, and texts. criticisms, veiled threats, in effect, suggestions, or, concerns. And I have never spoken to anybody, not a word about any pending litigation. I know the people that have sent me these concerns, and I felt it was my obligation to pass them on to Jared. I never worked with these people, supported them, or promoted their concerns, but I did felt it was my obligation to report this to our leader, Jared. If I did something wrong, I apologize. I support whatever the board wants to do with a bylaw, but all I felt was that I had an obligation to provide Jared with the information that I was getting. There's a lot of concerns out there. And there's a lot of people that are not happy with the election, and they have concerns. If we don't pass it on to Jared, I mean, how do we deal with these people? Do we just not talk to them? Do we not respond? So we have to come up with a framework how to deal with people that are not happy with the election. So anyway, I apologize if any of you felt that I did anything wrong. I would never do that. And whatever the board supports in terms of a bylaw change, I would support. Diane has some good ideas about tweaking it. But that's all I can say is my only goal on this board is to make sure that we have a fair, free election without fraud. And I've said it many times. Yes, there are irregularities with people that have died that are on our rolls. No roll with millions of people can be perfect, none. And our roles can't be perfect because we're human beings. But I have never seen, nobody has brought me, nobody has said, hey, Charlotte, there's fraud. I've never had a complaint of a specific fraudulent act in my 6 years with Montgomery County and my 6 months here. You got it, bring it. But I've never seen that. The elections in Maryland, in my experience, are sound, secure, fair, and without fraud. And I make that statement unequivocally. And I just hope we can get past this. I know Diane is very upset with this. She works so hard on going through all the material. She's like the hardest working person I've ever worked with. She goes through every word of every report, every suggestion we get, all our pre-meeting, and she's very active, very concerned. I know she feels very strongly about fair and free elections, as I do. So here we are. I hope we can move forward. My loyalty is to this board and to the state, and I support everything that we do. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Chair. As the chair of the board, I look forward to working with each of you in regards to moving forward and how we do that as a representative for the entire board and for each Marylander that is registered and is a citizen. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Member Jackson
Jackson
Stanley.
Stanley. And as one of the newest members, Jim and I began at the same time. I'm glad we're having this conversation, because when I got the information, I read it through, I thought, what am I missing? Am I missing something here? I want to be part of a board that is transparent, open, and above board when it comes to what we do for the state of Maryland. I'm glad that Diane and Jim brought it up, because I wasn't upset. I've lived long enough to know that people do what they want to do. But after hearing Diane talk and now Jim adding his passion to this, I'm glad it came up. I'm glad we've had an opportunity to clear the air about what is being said about this board, because people will talk about us and they don't have an idea of how we're supposed to be working together or not together. I was kind of concerned at the very first line, Jim, and it said, well, Jim has been talking for months, blah, blah, blah. Like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on, if I may use profanity just once? So whatever Jake has as a proposal for a bylaws change for us, I agree with it. And unlike you, I live in a large area, but small town people, and they talk all the time about something. Right now, I'm going to a town hall meeting and I have to excuse myself. I couldn't come up with the word because they're going to talk about topics that I know are going to be considered political, and they know who I am, they know what I'm about. So I've been taking notes about what I can and cannot say in an open forum. And if somebody's putting it in the paper about me, then that will be something I have to deal with. But because it was about you, and as I told Diane yesterday, if you walked into my house today, I wouldn't know you, so I have to depend on how we work together and how things are said and done in decency and order, as we say in my church. So I'm glad we had this time to at least hear what you're saying. Jake has a proposal of bylaw change, which I support, because if it's not written, it doesn't exist. So I just wanted to make sure my 2 cents was put on the record, Mr. Chair, that I've read it. I appreciate Diane and Jim speaking to their own defense about what somebody said about them. And Diane made it very clear. I went line by line by line, and I dispelled everything that they said. So there it is. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair.
Thank you, Member Jackson Stanley, for your impassioned remarks. Member Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like I'm never in a good place when folks are uttering my name. So I'll try to be quick.
You're in a safe space here, Member Weissman.
Well, not to. I appreciate this conversation, and not to entirely disagree with Member Jackson Stanley, but I was upset when I saw this article, and had that conversation with Ms. Butler. We had a very long conversation last night, which I really appreciated. And I was disturbed by some of the emails in the article's attachment. And Mr. Chair, I really appreciate the apology. And it's been a joy to work with you, and I look forward to continue to. I'm proud to be a member of this board and to work with the folks on this board. We've had some tough conversations. Most of the votes in my time on this board, I've now the second longest serving member on this board after the chair, have been unanimous or nearly so. Discussion has been great. And to quote an old boss of mine, we've disagreed without being disagreeable. We've also had some tough times. The board has now found ourselves in the press twice this year for things that reduce public trust in the board. I know I speak for all of us when I say that public trust in this board is and needs to be the top priority of all of us, as does trust in one another in this collective and important work that we do together. Therefore, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I am proposing a bylaw amendment to clear up the rules for communication with outside litigants. I want to thank every member of the board for their feedback and look forward to the discussion. Ms. Butler got me some feedback right before the meeting, and I've incorporated some of that into this proposal here. From a procedural standpoint, Mr. Chair, members of the board, I will be making 2 motions after the discussion. The first will be to suspend bylaw 1.3D to be able to vote to add this to the bylaws immediately. Should that vote be successful, I will move this bylaw amendment. To explain this bylaw amendment, and Mr. Chair, I'm going to share my screen. If you can let me know if you can see my screen, just thumbs
Yes.
up.
Yes.
Fantastic. This would be section 4.7, communication with outside litigants. Members have an obligation to the board and to the public, and know that members of the public who may disagree with the board action may choose to seek legal relief. To avoid even the appearance of impropriety, members may not communicate directly or indirectly about any board matter with members of the public who are in active litigation against the board. Members of the public affected by this rule who wish to communicate with the board may do so through legal counsel. Members of the public include representatives of organizations or named parties actively engaged in litigation against the board. I really appreciate the board's consideration. Look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. I hear 2 motions being proposed. The first motion is to suspend bylaw 1.7.
1.3D, Mr. Chair.
1.3. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I like to
It
move.
has been moved. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
It's been probably seconded by Member Jackson Stanley. All those in favor, please
Can I-
indicate by raising your hand.
Can I ask a question real quick? So what is one
Wait,
point?
I'm sorry, as far as our bylaws, Jake,
Yeah, I
One,
didn't-
1.3, do you, Ms. Butler, is the.
I misspoke, yes.
Normally with our bylaws, we have to have a meeting in between when a bylaw amendment is proposed and when it's formally voted on for adoption. So this vote would suspend that waiting period.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
All right, we have a vote on the floor, a motion and a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Is so moved, unanimous consent, all members being present. Second motion,
The second motion is for the bylaw, but I don't want to make the motion until Mr. Chair, unless you want the motion on the floor first and then
we can make the
discussion.
motion and we'll open for
Okay,
discussion.
then I'd like to move the bylaw amendment, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
Okay.
It is properly seconded by member Jackson Stanley. Is there any discussion?
Yeah.
I see a hand by member Butler.
Yeah, I talked to Jake about this earlier. So, and Jake, did you figure this out? That's where it goes. So how do the citizens get answers to questions, give suggestions, or make complaints about totally different matters that are not included in the lawsuits if they no longer have access to the board as the rest of the citizens do? So you put it in here that they would go to the legal counsel.
To legal counsel. In this case, it would be Mr. Coburn.
Okay, because when we originally talked, you were talking about the Attorney General was where they would go. Or and
So.
when I asked you about it, I wondered if it would go to Jared to decide if these people, said something to us and we would just immediately send it to Jared. So we're now immediately going to send it to the lawyer and then the lawyer will figure out.
I think the problem, Ms. Butler, and Mr. Coburn pointed this out to me, is sometimes the administrator is named in the lawsuit.
Yeah, okay. This was my
And so
question.
Therefore.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because there's and one of the examples here is Jared and I had talked, we were trying to clean up this double voting thing. So when not double voting, the double ballots when they're sent out. And one of these people that was one of the litigants got two ballots. So Jared had said to me, if anybody gets two ballots, make sure they take pictures of it and send it to me because we want to find out where if we still have any problems in any of those. And of course, one of the litigants was one of those. So I immediately sent that to Jared. So I wanted to know how we were going to allow them to do other things. So this is so we feel that the attorney is the best answer for this. And then Dan can just parse it out where it needs to go. Okay, so that keeps us from having the conversation with the litigants themselves.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, so that's where we're going. Okay, but that was after we talked, so I'm glad that you were
Yes,
able
thank
to
you. Thank you for that point.
find that one out. Okay, great. All right, so that's where we're going with that one. And then then it says, okay, so members, all right, members of the public, did we change that or not?
Yes, Ms. Butler.
Members of the public include
Oh,
representatives.
no, at the end, we did not.
Okay, I'm still struggling with this one. I don't really understand what we're saying here again. So,
Sure.
okay, so my first question to you, which we already talked about, but I'm wondering if some of this has changed. Are you trying to include members of any organization that might be suing, including members of any organization that might be suing the board in this particular thing? So,
Now- Sorry, go on.
okay, so and my example of that one was we use the NAACP, who's currently suing us, and we have friends and even board members who are a member of the NAACP. So this would negate us being able to talk to them. So we need to be careful how we word this last sentence so that we're still able to communicate with members of our party or the head of our party, because that's what our job is. Yours is with the Democrat Party, ours is with the Republican Party. Or any unaffiliated, whatever. So how do we make sure that this doesn't limit us, and how do we know who some of these members are? I think we were talking about some of these little integrity groups or something. I think they kind of just name them and then they have people that show up or to their meetings or something, but I don't know how are we going to know? I mean, how am I going to know that if somebody that's talked to me before is a member of one of these boards. We don't really have a list of these people. So the single litigants, I was thinking if we just use the names, but the organizations, I think we're going to have to tighten
So
this.
let me explain kind of my thinking, and then obviously I defer to the wisdom of the board. So to go back to your NAACP, well, to go back to your party's example, yes, I'm a member of the Democratic Party, you're a member of the Republican Party. If one of those parties sue us, we're not, I don't think anybody would say a individual member of the party is a representative of the entire party, right? For the NAACP, I am a member of the state NAACP. If the Wacomico County NAACP is suing us, I, as a member of the statewide NAACP, or even if I were a member of the Wacomico County NAACP, would not be a representative of the organization. I think a representative of the organization is a member of the organization's board or leadership is how I would define it, right? So for Election Integrity Maryland, obviously, Mr. Morseberger and Miss I just read her last name, excuse me, would be included as named litigants. But the individual who, for example, is the person who filed the paperwork to make them into an LLC and is listed as chair in the LLC paperwork would also be included in that regard as a representative of the organization.
Were you able to find that? Because I know we tried to look it up.
ESTA has a listing for the LLC. Yes.
So are we going to get lists of people? If they do a lawsuit, is Dan going to have to supply us a list of people that we can't talk to because they're on these boards? Or how are we going to know to make sure we don't do something incorrectly again? That's why this one, the tightening of this sentence is kind of important. So we don't put our foot into something that we don't understand, or maybe we need to write this differently. I'm not sure. So that was my question. Okay. So how
yeah, I defer to Mr. Copeland if that's possible. You know, I don't want to throw him under the bus in that regard. I do think there's a little bit of, for lack of a better term, common sense. I don't think anybody in this board is going to hold accountable if, you know, there was no way to know. But I think the difference when it's a leader of an organization, even if they're not the one who is named in the lawsuit.
I'm not worried about this board. I'm worried about the press. The press puts whatever they want out there. They come up with these things and you have no clue where they came from. And you're like looking at it, I didn't do that. I didn't see that. I never did.
Understood. If I may interject here, and I understand your comment, Diane. I understand what you're saying, Jake. Understand that we have individual decorum as we proceed. And if there is ever any doubt, disclosure. So as long as we're disclosing this and we are seeking advice of counsel, that would help preclude any impropriety going forward in regards to this language. This is for bylaws. This is how we are to act as representative of the collective board. It is to be in consideration of all members present, not as individuals. This is not being written into code law that is enforceable. It is all based on the ethical and liable behaviors of boards when we are interacting with the public. So that is something we have to gauge if there is ever any doubt and or question, as long as we have done, and you guys have demonstrated that, disclose this type of potential liable communication to the proper parties, i.e. the board, members collectively, the state administrator, or counsel for the board, that is the Assistant Attorney General. We have no problem so that we are guided officially in our acts as a board and not as individuals. We can protect all of those members as long as we are aware of the activity, which is why we ask for disclosures at the end of each open session with regards to campaign contributions. Those disclosures do not cease and stop at this point. They are an ongoing process, which we have tried to advocate for, and this substantiates that with regards to our bylaws and how we are to proceed collectively. No one is saying you cannot speak to them. It is a discretion call on each member, and a proper disclosure will follow and we can proceed. So thank you very much, Member Weissman. Thank you very, very much, Member Butler, for the robust conversation and discussion. Member Weissman, your hand is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me say this, I appreciate this conversation. I think it is more important that we get something on the books than not get something on the books because of concern over a couple words. So what I'd like to propose, Mr. Chair, is that we take out the words include representatives of organizations or in the last sentence, and Ms. Butler and I will work on some additional language that we can come back with next time. I don't want this bylaw amendment to not get in because we can't come to an agreement on these words, and having something in the bylaws for public faith, I think is better. And then Ms. Butler and I can work over between now and the December meeting and come back with language about the representatives of organizations.
Great, thank you. Okay.
So with that being said, would you like to read in the new motion? I mean, the new
Yes.
language and make a motion. Thank you very much.
So the new language will read section 4.7, communication with outside litigants. Members have an obligation to the board and to the public, and know that members of the public who may disagree with a board action may choose to seek legal relief. To avoid even the appearance of impropriety, members may not communicate directly or indirectly about any board matter with members of the public who are in active litigation against the board. Members of the public affected by this rule who wish to communicate with the board may do so through legal counsel. Members of the public include named parties actively engaged in litigation against the board.
Any questions? Any discussion?
I think we're good.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I thought I second with the first
Properly seconded with
original discussion.
Jackson Stanley. Thank you very much. All those in favor indicate by raising your hand. So move, unanimous consent, all members being present. Thank you all so very, very much for that. The deliberation was excellent. I greatly appreciate it. Now with regards to, we are going on to, we have two, I guess, for today's board meeting. Yes, go
Just
ahead. Do you have an
one quick
update?
point was just the delegation of the ballot marking devices to
Oh,
me.
yes, thank you. Thank
So
you for the
just a quick
reminder. It's not
motion
there. Thank
for
you.
that. Sorry.
Is there a motion for the ballot marking devices?
And
Mr.
what was
Chair, I
the-
move I'm sorry, go ahead.
What was the actual motion to do what with the ballot marking?
To-
To delegate the authority to
Yeah.
deploy additional ballot marking.
Additional
devices
ballot
to the state of
for the
Michigan.
visually impaired, as I understand. it.
Yes, yes.
That would be my motion, sir.
Thank you very much. So move Jackson, by member Jackson Stanley. Is there a second? Probably seconded by member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Thank you guys so very much. It is unanimous consent of the board, all members being present. Is that your vice chair? Your hand is still up for comment?
No, no, it isn't. No, thank you.
No. Oh, okay. All right. Now we have the two individuals. Jared, is that correct?
Yes.
Who would be
Senator
yes.
Kagan's probably
who do we have
first.
going first?
Senator Kagan.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. Can we, yes, I see. I recognize Senator Kagan is on with us now. Thank you so very much for being present with us today. You have the floor.
The process of getting in. Hello, all. For the record, I'm Cheryl Kagan, very proud to be the senator for Gaithersburg and Rockville and the vice chair of the Senate committee that oversees election laws and an ally on so many things. I want to do a few things. I'm going to start since member Jake Weissman quoted a boss. I'm going to quote the late Senate President Mike Miller, perfect is the enemy of the good. And I think there was reason for the bylaw change, and I want to commend the board members for the collaboration, the creativity, and the importance of speaking out on this after the Baltimore Banner article. So thank you. I want to start with thank you to our board members. Thank you to our local boards of election members. Thank you to everyone who's volunteering or who has signed up to be a page of judge or in any way connected to our elections. Maryland has a tradition, a history, and a track record of running excellent elections, and I expect nothing less, despite what some folks are likely to allege. I want to remind anyone watching or listening that Maryland has enacted a law about threats against election officials, and we made it pretty broad. So anyone who was remotely connected to election administration, canvassing, or procedure, please know that we have your back. Make sure that you report any problems, because we want to make sure that anyone who's going to threaten anyone involved with our election is dealt with. This meeting and those like it, it's important that it is transparent. Appreciate the live stream, even when it's not ideal and we can't even see all the stuff that's going on. We appreciate that. Delegate Corman and I are continuing to work on transparency issues, including for our local boards of elections. Ms. Butler talked about that at a recent meeting. She and I have talked, and I agree that we do need more transparency at the local level. Briefly, sneak peek on some of the issues, some of the bills that I'm working on for next year, and that feels like 100 years away, I'm sure, since election day is 12 days away. But everything from simplifying our ballot measures to relationships between the State Board of Elections and our municipal election process, cybersecurity attacks, address confidentiality, and more. And just two last things. One is I just want to say publicly, and many of you know that I do regularly go visit and observe the canvas. I'm very glad that we started it early. If there's a county that would really like me to come and watch and think you've got something that I can learn, something you do differently or better, I'd love an invitation and have blocked out time on my calendar to go and watch your great work. And the last thing is a question I think is going to be to Jared, which is, as you know very well, but others may not, Delegate Polakovich-Carr and I sponsored legislation that is law that allows people who are unemployed and getting unemployment benefits to serve as election judge and be paid as an election judge and not have their unemployment benefits reduced in any way. Some of the local boards put that out there. I had suggested that they collaborate with their unemployment offices to get a little poster up there and encourage people. I just wonder if Mr. Demarinis, whether you can tell us whether you think that word has gotten out, and do you have any idea of any preliminary numbers of judges who might have fit in this? And regardless of your answer, I do think that that's a great population that we can reach out to in the future as a win-win. And thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to speak briefly before I dash off to a dentist appointment that I rescheduled around this meeting.
We're always really, really glad when you join us. Thank you so very much for your due diligence and your efforts and your dedication to the citizens of Maryland and your constituents. Greatly appreciated. I do have a hand for you, and I won't, I know you asked the question of Jared, but Jared, you also have Jennifer.
So yeah, I guess
Go ahead.
I we will follow up with the local boards, because they're the ones that actually do the recruiting of and how they did it with, if they used unemployment agencies. We can try to figure out how we get those stats, because it's not like something that we have in our database that says this person is unemployed or anything like that. So it's just, I would say it's the same thing like when we do all these voter outreach and recruitment things. We know what comes in through our portal. We know what comes in through paper. We know that stuff, but how they get it, we might have to fine tune it. And I'm not sure if people want to say like, I received this through the unemployment agency, then not. But I think Jen, did you have your hand up? Did you want to add anything?
Sure. Thank you, Jared. Thank you, board members. I just wanted to reply that we did follow up with the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulations, DLLR secretary and her staff, and made sure that they were completely on board and they understood the legislation completely. So hopefully we won't hear any hiccups on that end.
I don't expect that there were hiccups, and so thank you for working with DLLR. The question, I guess, Jared, for going forward is whether our local boards did find it useful and whether they were aware of it early enough to reach out, because the knowledge that I got is not everyone was aware of it. So opportunity for the future if it wasn't taken advantage of this time.
So I want to say this because part of the law was also changed to have the state board do the ad campaign that then the locals can supplement.
Yes.
We can put it in there and just say, one of the things was like what motivated them, how they received that information. So we are going to circle back with the directors to see what transpired on recruiting for election judges and to help facilitate that for 26.
Perfect. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very
Good luck.
much.
Fingers crossed all around.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much, Senator. Thank you. All right, Member Butler.
You're on mute.
Your mic, you're on mute. You're on mute. Okay.
Sorry. My question is, did they put it right up on the MWE site for the unemployment site, that if there was like a little blip on the front of their site, people might see that, you might get more people coming through there? I don't know if that was done or not.
I'd be happy to follow up with the DLLR. You mean the DLLR website?
Yeah, I think there's the unemployment site itself is the Maryland Workforce Exchange or something, where people go to look for the jobs. That would, if it popped up during election time, I don't know, they've got so many things on those sites, but there might be a pop-up that could come up. I think there was a pop-up about they put something up there for the workers when the bridge went down or something. So maybe a pop-up there would help you when you're trying to do judges or something. And we're always looking for judges, so any suggestion helps. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I will reach back out to her staff.
Excellent point. Thank you so very, very much. And Jared, we have one more speaker. Are they prepared at this time? Yes. Is that Ms. Harper? Hello? Yes, Ms. Harper, the floor is yours. Welcome to State Board of Elections.
Thank you. Just a sec here. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members, administrator, and other guests. My concerns this afternoon are twofold. The first item is assuring that the handling of 2-page ballots that are returned with only 1 page are handled the same way across the state in every jurisdiction. The procedure needs to be added to all voting instructions. It appears that in the 2024 general election, this only affected 3 jurisdictions, those being Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Prince George's County. But in primary elections, it affected almost all of the counties. I'd like confirmation, if possible, from the state board and administrator that multi-page ballots that are missing a page will be treated as a voter intent issue, which would need to be given to the Board of Canvassers for adjudication. This is a crucial part of the canvassing procedure and has yet to be added to printed information available to the public and to canvassers, as far as I can find. The second concern appears that the State Board of Elections is trying to be transparent and open in its running of the elections and canvassing, which I appreciate. However, it appears that statewide printed policy requirements fall short of full transparency in the case of scanners and canvassing. While it appears that most counties have access to full transparency, in Frederick, my county, we do not have full public viewing of the tabulation process to watch the scanning procedure. We're able to see the opening of ballot envelopes during mail-in canvassing. However, we only have access to a live stream of the tabulators, which are located in a separate room. So we're not able to see the ballots going from the open envelopes being fed through the canvasser and what might be happening in between. All counting processes early, during, and after the election must be visible to the public for full transparency. We ask simply that the directors organize their facilities. Even a small county with a small office like Kent can accommodate the scanner ballots and canvassing teams, including the public and the Board of Canvassers. So certainly Frederick should be able to as well. Of course, this all depends on the number of ballots and the number of teams needed to conduct the canvass. Each local board has a facility to train their judges. This room would be conducive to canvassing if need be. The bottom line is that the state board ought to make it clear to local boards that it's unacceptable to have a scanner in another room where the public is not allowed during this process. I appreciate the state's dedication to transparency and look forward to seeing Maryland's voter integrity further protected. Thank you very much.
We greatly appreciate your comments and points of recognition. And Jared, did you have anything to add to what we have attempted to do or try to do in response to up to this point? No? You're on mute, but okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and we will look into that. And I think we recognize your concerns, and we greatly appreciate you bringing them forward. And we have heard some of this, and we'll work diligently with our administration staff to address this going forward in the best way possible. Thank you all so very, very much. With that being said, we have at this point a request for disclosure of any campaign contributions. Hearing none, seeing none, thank you all very much. Scheduling our next meeting, I think it's set for December 5th, correct? Excellent.
have
And
the-
we changed the time to 3:30 or 3 o'clock or 2:30.
Yes. But we have the one that's scheduled for emergency purposes only on November 5th. Yes. just in case.
November 5th is emergency only. The next official open meeting board meeting will be December 5th,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
November 5th would be two, right?
Yeah, just,
Yes,
is that by
yes,
Zoom
good
or in
point.
person?
Good question, Vice Chair. It is via Zoom,
Zoom.
virtual. Yes, at this time. If you would like to be in person, Jarrett would love to host you in Annapolis, as well as Member Weissman. He'll end up in Jarrett's office with you, so it's not a problem.
Yeah.
We're very accommodating. Yes, Member Jackson Stanley and then Member Butler. Yes.
Thank you. You just said two different things. December 5th is in person at 3:30.
No,
3
no,
o'clock.
it is either or. It's virtual. But if you want to go to Annapolis,
At 3:30.
At 3:30.
At 3:30, because I heard 3 o'clock as well.
Oh, but
3:30.
December
3:30.
5th
It
is
is-
virtual. I misunderstood that.
December 5th, 3:30. Time change.
Virtual.
Yes.
Virtual, yes.
Okay, so I don't have to cross the bay unless I just really want to.
Exactly.
Unless you really
Right.
want to hang out in Jared's wonderful office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and November 5th is by emergency call only.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Butler.
Okay, so I think that was my question. I think originally we were going to do the December 5th meeting in person.
Right.
Right.
And so now we're saying that it can be in person or not in person.
Or virtual. Yes.
Or virtual.
Okay,
Okay, so we've
Thank
changed.
you.
it. Okay, and that
We've
is,
given some flexibility during that time. Yes.
okay,
All right.
either or.
okay.
All right. The floor is open for a motion to close. We will not be having a closed session to close our meeting. So
So
moved
moved.
by Member by Member Weissman. Is there a second? So properly seconded by Member Butler. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. It is unanimous.